Hey there, my name's Drew Brashler, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to get a vocal verb and a vocal delay set up on your Behringer Wing. If you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident in production gear no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, on the Behringer Wing, the effects work in a slightly different way than the Behringer X32. The Behringer X32 already has effects sends set up and effects returns set up. Now, on the Behringer Wing, you can actually set up your effects to be sent on the same bus, processed on that bus, and then sent to the main left-right off of that same bus. And then you don't actually have to take up any auxiliary channels or channels on the board to then send it to the left-right bus. So let's go ahead and set one up. So I have my bus masters pulled up on my center fader bank here on my Behringer Wing. And I have hit select, and we're going to press home, and we're going to give this a color and a name. So this is going to be Vox Verb. Okay, so we have Vox Verb here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pull up my second insert point. I'm going to then go and pull up my Effects 1 rack and turn it on. And at this point, we can go select any effects that we want to. So we can select the VSS3 reverb, vintage room, vintage reverb. There's a bunch of plugins here in the console that you will see that are familiar if you're used to the Behringer X32. In this case, I'm going to pull up my VSS3 verb as I already have this really kind of dialed in. So here we have a Drew room. So I made this a while ago, and I'm going to set my decay about 3.5 seconds. We have some high decay, a low damp. My high cut is set about 4K. And you have all of these additional effects settings that you can set on your VSS3. So it goes deeper than just these 6 knobs on your effects. But the next thing that we can do is we can go and set an EQ curve to feed into this verb. So I'm going to hit the settings, and I'm going to change my low band to being a cut, and I'm going to set my high band to also be a cut. And then we can set my high band at about 4K, and my low band we're going to set at about 200 hertz. I'm then going to go ahead and turn this on. An additional thing that I typically do is I go and grab a frequency at 1.2K, and I will reduce this by a couple dB, and we'll narrow this up to be about a Q of 3. And what this does is this EQ curve cleans up the sends that are going to the reverb and makes this reverb sound a whole lot better and less muddy than if we had this not in there. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to send some vocals into this reverb. So because this is a bus send, I can go ahead and hit Sense on Fader, and this will flip the left side of my board into a Sense on Fader mode, in which case I have my 4 vocals right here, which I will unmute, and I will go ahead and turn those up to 0. Sometimes I will go ahead and set my lead vocal to be at 0, and then the background vocals can be a little bit less if that's something that you want to do, or you can send them at 0. Now that we have our channels going into this, one last thing that we need to set up before we can play some audio into this is go and select your bus 1, go to our bus mode setup on our second tab down and change this to post, because we want our channels to be fed post fader into this mix bus. That way, when I am mixing on my board, the blend that I'm creating here will translate into my effects section, which is what we want. So, sends on fader, we set this to post on the bus mode, and then on this channel, let's get back out of Sense on Fader, on our bus 1, so on our vocal verb bus, the last thing that we need to do is we need to send this to the mains. So this is going to go to our main left-right. So I'm just going to go ahead and press on. And at this point, if I turn this up and get some audio playing on here, we will hear our reverb. And we can adjust how much verb there is by just simply turning up and down our bus here. So here is the verb without this. And here it is Now, if we wanted to have a little bit more control over everything that's happening with this verb, we can send this to a channel and have one of our channels do the reverb return to our mains. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Vox verb, and I'm going to go back down to the mains, and I'm going to turn this off of main 1. So now, if I press play, this verb is not going to be going anywhere. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to go find one of the channels that I want to put my effects return on. So for instance, 37 through 40 is where I like to place my effects. And so we have channel 37 here, and I have it selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press home, go into my input, and I'm going to select my bus sends. So I'll select my bus, and then I'm going to select Vox verb. And now, if I was to press play on this session again, we would see meters here, and we would see meters on this channel 37. And if I was to turn this up, we would hear the reverb again. So the next thing that I love to do is I like to set some EQ parameters and a slight amount of compression on this verb. So we can go to our EQ, and we can set our low cut and our high cut, and then we can go ahead and adjust these. So I will set my low cut frequency to about 130, and my high cut I will then set at about 5K. The next thing I will do is I will go into my compressor, and I will set a compression of 2.5 to 1 with my attack at 10 milliseconds, my hold time at 1, and my release about 100 milliseconds. At this point, I'll go ahead and play some audio into this, and I will set my threshold to when it's nice and loud, there's a little bit of compression happening. The rock on which I stand, when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. Now this channel is already going to the main left right, and so I don't have to route anything additional. Now, what if I was wanting to add a vocal tap delay? Well, I actually already have one set up in my effects section on my effects rack 2. And I have already created a custom control on my custom controls section for my tap delay. And if you're wanting to add this, you can press view on this section, and you can simply tap the button that you want to assign it to. And then once that button is assigned, we can go and find our function, which is going to be effects parameter. We will then go find our effects processor, for instance, our stereo delay, and we will then go and select time. And that way, this is now my tap tempo button. I've also done it to an encoder, so if I wanted to change the time, I could with the encoder. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my mix bus 2 to be my vocal delay send. So I'm going to go ahead and select this bus. I'm going to press home, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a color and an icon. And then we are going to title this Vox Delay. Once we've done that, we can go into our insert, and we can go pull up our wing delay. I can go ahead and turn this on. And then I am also going to set a high pass and a low pass on this so that I can control this a little bit more. We can then go set this to 150 and about 4K, and then we will go grab our 1.2K cut with a Q of 3. Let's go ahead and turn this up to 0, and let's go ahead and set our sends on fader for this. So we'll go find my vocals, we'll press sends on fader, we'll unmute these, turn them up to 0, with the background vocals a little bit less, and we can get back out of sends on fader. And the very last thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this is set up as a post-fade tap. Now, once we've done that, let's go ahead and route it to our 38 channel. So let's go ahead and select 38 and go and select our input as Vox delay. Once that happens, then we can go and add in a compressor with the similar settings from the previous one that we just set on the verb. The very last thing is we can go ahead and set our low cut and our high cut. 150 and 5K. And then we can go ahead and turn that up. Now, the very last thing that I personally love to do is I love sending my Vox delay into my verb. So my vocal delay comes into my channel, and then my channel then sends to the vocal verb on bus 1. So I'm going to go ahead and select my bus 1, press sends on fader, and turn up my vocal delay at 0. And this allows me to get a more complex sound of my verb plus my delay together. Now, when I'm using a vocal delay, I will typically like to have my delay set pretty quick. So if we go back to my effects processor, we can see that my factor is 2/3 and my pattern is 2/3 over 1. And so this makes it so that when I have this delay going, it's actually not a long delay. It's more of just a bouncing around delay. So as we listen to this song again, we will hear that adding this vocal delay gives a little bit more space in the room. Without the vocal verb. So why would he fail? There's the vocal verb again. I'll replay this section and I will go ahead and remove the vocal verb sending to. I'll go ahead and replay this section with the vocal delay not going back into the verb. So let's go ahead and play this with it going. Now, using this combination of the delay and the verb together is one of my favorite things that I like to do to give more texture to vocals. Now, obviously, I was mixing too much verb and too much delay in my mix just now, but I was wanting to overemphasize it so that you could hear it on YouTube from your end. If you do happen to have any questions about the video today, please post those in the comment section down below. Also, if there's a video that you're hoping that I would make, either on the Behringer Wing or really any of the other production products that are out there, please post that idea in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com. Otherwise, have a great day.